if you guys enjoyed our 49th edition for our Spear magazine, you guys are definitely going to enjoy our 50th edition. This is a super special one for us. And right now it's online. You can go to thespearsjsu.com and you can find stories about the legendary Dick Vermeil, who is in the Hall of Fame. And you can also see some really cool stories about our gymnastics team and also our kind of unofficial school mascot with Dak and Burb and kind of go through their DuckTales and stuff. So there's some really cool stories in here. So if you guys want to check out the online edition, it is on www.thespearsjsu.com. The actual print editions are going to be coming out sometime in April. I do not have an exact date, but on our next episode, you guys will know where to get them and when they'll be released. So yeah, hopefully you guys, read the stories and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yes, sir. Swing by Dwight Bentel Hall sometime in April, probably after spring break, to go pick up your 50th edition of the Spear magazine. This is the latest from the SpearSJSU.com.
Tennis beat UC San Diego, ends losing streak. With a 5-match losing streak, it was a wonder if San Jose State's women's tennis play was enough fuel to win the match against UC San Diego. Starting off with the doubles, the Spartans were off to a tough start. UCSD took the win 2-1. With the last 5 matches resulting in losses, the outcome of the match was the team's focus. Story by Zolma Kanaui.
Spartans can't hold off Rams in Game 1. The Spartans lost to Colorado State 6-4 in Game 1 of a 3-game series. Despite the loss, the Spartans came out of the gate swinging with malice. Spartans came out with confidence, yet the errors on the defensive side of the ball proved to be too detrimental. Jocelyn Vidal was 3 for 3 on hitting for the Spartans, and she may come up big against the Rams in the rest of the series. Story by Aiden Bostich.
Spartans dropped second straight and dramatic loss to Rams. Mess with the bull, you get the horns. In this case, San Jose State softball dealt with other types of horns. On Saturday, the Spartans went toe-to-toe with the Colorado State Rams, losing 7-6 on a gut-wrenching walk-off. The entire ball game was a back-and-forth battle between the two teams. Colorado State struck first as Rams catcher Jalen McGuffin had an RBI ground out in the second inning. However, the Rams' 1-0 lead wouldn't last long. Story by Jose Garcia.
Defensive miscues plague the Spartans. The Spartans' defense needed to be perfect or a notch below to take the rubber match against the Runnin' Rebels. Facing their lineup is like taking a stroll through Elm Street. The lineup used on Sunday entered the game with an average slash line of .332, .416, .543. It's plenty to keep opposing pitchers up at night and enough to have nightmares filled with flashes of Joey Walls and Henry Zeisler teeing off. There was little room for error, from initially reeling it in to precisely throwing and nabbing with it a spear once it's closed to the boat to obtain it. Any small detail going astray during that time period, and the whole mission is wasted. Spartans showed that their offense can do plenty to hang with the big dog to the Mountain West. However, if the defense isn't able to back up a pitching staff that has a conference worst 7.62 ERA, then they will continue to lose to Mountain West teams like UNLV and Nevada. Story by Matt Weiner, the baseball beat reporter.
Spartans fall short against Indiana in a defensive slugfest. San Jose State women's water polo was defeated by University of Indiana 6-3 in what felt more like an intense chess match more than a water polo game. The Spartans' defense that held strong in the opening frame seemingly crumbled while the offense fizzled out in the process, creating a less than ideal situation for SJSU. This win snaps a 3-game losing streak for Indiana before they hit the road for a 4-game road trip. For the Spartans, this loss marks their 4th loss in 5 games, with 2 tough home games left against USC and Stanford to close out the regular season. Story by Ricardo Garcia.
Spartans finished 5th in WCC Invitational. The San Jose State Beach Volleyball swept 2 of its opponents this weekend at the WCC Invitational in Santa Cruz. Despite only losing its opening match of the Invitational, SJSU ended the tournament with a 5th place finish and some sand between their toes. SJSU ultimately won 3 of its 4 duels in the Invitational, good for 5th place out of 8 teams. While not the most impressive finish on paper for the Spartans, there was surely some solid experience gained during their Santa Cruz road trip. The Spartans will look to continue building on this when they come back home to Spartan Beach and battle against St. Mary's on March 31st. Story by John Culbertson.
Tennis drops to 0-2 in conference play. In the second game of their Fresno road trip, San Jose State's women's tennis lost to Wyoming 4-1. Unfortunately, the Spartans have been in a slump for the past month. The Spartans have only won one of their last 8 games. Regardless of their struggles, this road trip is not an end-all be-all. There's still plenty of time in their season to make adjustments. The Spartans' Bulldog battles are not over quite yet. The team will travel back there next weekend for 2 conference duels against San Diego State and UNLV April 2nd and 3rd. Story by John Culbertson.
Charles McAdoo's success built through finding happy place. In an age where every fraction of a movement on a baseball field could be calculated and placed into a statistic, it's refreshing when a player's success doesn't take a PhD from MIT to understand. Keeping it simple feels more fitting as a refrigerator magnet next to one that says live, laugh, love, but there's no denying the effectiveness of the philosophy. McAdoo is on his way to an All-Mountain West first team honor and, more importantly, turning the Spartans from bottom of the conference shoo-in to a team opponents don't immediately glance over. Story by Matt Weiner, baseball beat reporter.
So I am here with Ricardo Garcia, reporter for The Spear, and we're gonna talk about women's softball, who just finished a 3-game series against Colorado State. So Ricardo, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good, Alex. Glad to be back on the pod to chop it up and talk some softball this time around. Kind of talk about how that 3-game series went for the Spartans and sort of dissect that with you today.
Yeah. So let's just get right into it. So it was a 3-game series, like we've been saying. Unfortunately, they lost all 3. You covered the last game. The Spartans, right. It was a really close game, and it was a comeback. But Spartans just couldn't close it out. They lost 6-5. So what was kind of the biggest thing that you saw that like struck out to you for the Spartans? That like, what was it that like they really struggled with?
I think it was kind of a mix of 2 things, Alex. First, it was errors. I think early on they sort of just sloppy infield work, and of course Colorado State's going to capitalize on that. I think at this level of division, in Division I softball, I think teams are going to recognize, if the opposing team is not tight and sort of refined within the infield, that they're going to take advantage of that. And Colorado State just, they did just that. Were able to get 4 runs in the first inning and establish a cushion that ultimately sort of helped them narrowly seal the game. But we'll talk about that more. And then the other thing really was just offense. It fizzled out, right? I think there needs to be consistency throughout so sort of those innings, but unfortunately, 3 straight innings of not scoring is going to cost you in the long run. So I think that combination of just sloppy play, sloppy fielding and sort of not being able to make contact, with the ball and get the ball in play really hurt the Spartans early on to sort of, stay afloat with that sort of offensive surge from Colorado to start the game off.
Yeah, so like you talked about in your recap, it's just offense really wasn't, hitting for the Spartans. They got the 1 run, but then, the Colorado, they just went on that run and they were up 6-1. But obviously it was a close game, 6-5. So they were able, the Spartans were able to make it competitive. So what play kind of stuck out to you when the Spartans were making their way back into the game? Like, what was the play that stuck out to you?
I wouldn't say it was a particular play. It was more a series in late in the 7th inning when they really started to get the bats hot. And a result of that was, that they set up their leading slugger, Alyssa Graham, 24 home runs on the season. They put her in a position to sort of almost get them back in the game. So they got runners on base and were able to load the bases, which, like I said, set up Graham for an absolute moonshot. So I think that was for me the play that really set them back and, set them up to sort of get back in the game. So I think for me it's you do that, but you do it earlier, right? That sort of consistency of being able to get 3 runners on base and load the bases up, and then all you have to do, you just rely on your top slugger to, get you, where you need to be, and she delivers. She did just. I've seen her deliver in person, so she can take care of that. So I feel like, it needs to be done earlier though, right? Because it was just too late. In the seventh inning, you're sort of fighting for your life and in this situation, and you almost did pull it out, but at the end of the day, you didn't, right? And a loss is a loss, no matter how close you were coming close to getting that win. So I think they just need to show that consistency, that offensive consistency throughout, all innings.
Yeah, and I really like the word consistency a lot. Like I use it so much, but I think it's especially important for a team who, before going into the series, they were 16-10 as like their overall record, and obviously they're on the 3-game losing streak now. So I think as we currently record this, the Spartans are playing St. Mary's, and then we have a 3-game series against Fresno State. So coming out of this 3-game losing streak, what should the mindset be?
So first off, I want to say this. I want to say that this, although it was a tough break for them, this three-game stretch, you cannot let one series sort of determine the rest of your season. If we really look at their schedule right now, right, it's still so much to play for. You still have so many conference matchups, conference series against let's see, let's take a look at the schedule here. They've got, I know, Utah. They finish up the season with Utah State. They've got Fresno next. They've got Nevada. They've got UNLV, Boise. And then in between, you've got these little games sort of sprinkled. You've got University of the Pacific. They just lost to St. Mary's, but they also have Cal in there. So, and Santa Clara University, again, those are also, I feel like those single games, right, are going to be very important as well as those conference matchups, because those single games are a great way to sort of refine your play and sort of test your ability before heading into those longer series against conference opponents. So, I think, like I said, you cannot let one series sort of bum you out and let that sort of hang over your head. You got to move on and improve. And the improvement is going to come in two things. Obviously, we talked about it, cleaning up that infield and limiting those errors. So, because like I said, teams are going to see that and they're going to capitalize on that. It makes you very vulnerable when you're not playing, solid defense, excuse me. So that's one area that needs to improve as they get into the later end of the season. And then another thing is just consistency. We talked about being consistent not only at the end of the game, right, but in all innings of play, right, the beginning, middle, and end. Even if it's at the beginning, we know this team can slug, right, at any moment. They have the potential to really pack it on and finish games early. So. I think if they can really get that consistency going throughout all innings of play, this team can be very dangerous in conference play, even against the top teams in the conference. So I think those two areas are going to be what they need to work on for sure.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would like to add on that maybe we haven't talked about yet?
Honestly, the only thing I want to say is it's going to be sort of interesting to see how they do it in conference play. I think it can either go one of two ways, right? If they clean up sort of this what they need to work on, I think they'll have success. But on the other end, if they can't tighten it up, I can definitely see them sort of just not having the best time, to close out the rest of the season with these conference opponents. Because, like I said, it's a very stacked remaining schedule. So I think it's going to be very crucial for them to sort of refine what they're lacking and sort of tighten up some areas of their game before it really gets too late and they can't sort of make those adjustments. So I would say that's my final thought.
Well, thank you so much, Ricardo, for coming on. Shout out any sort of Twitter that people can follow you on.
Yeah, I'm on Twitter. Follow me, Ricardo, SJSU Ricardo G on Twitter. Check out our 50th magazine. We just dropped, on the Spear, our 50th edition. A lot of great pieces in that from my guy Matt. I know he killed it, but everyone involved in that magazine killed it. So please go check it out. Share it with your friends, and support us. But yeah, man, always great coming on here, chopping it up with you or Thomas. So, I'm glad to be able to do it again and hopefully, do it again before the semester ends.
Yeah, man, I know for sure we'll probably have you on again. And, for the viewers, if you guys want to keep reading, stuff that Ricardo writes, make sure to go on thespirit.sjsu.com. And that's where you can find the magazine online. And you can also find Ricardo's recaps. Cool. Thank you so much, Ricardo.